Did you know that there are more than 20 Backrooms games on Steam and none of them achieved what an A24 movie did in less than 2 hours? After knowing this, you can't see the Backrooms the same way as the video games because the more you analyze the Backrooms games, the more it seems like they all made exactly the same mistake, and Kane Pixels was the only one who managed to avoid it. That's how the movie humiliated the video games. The first time I saw Kane's videos before A24 and long before James Wan, I mistook them for real recordings. The difference between the movie and the video games isn't about money, but to understand this difference, we first need to go back to the beginning. A single photo from 4chan The Backrooms started with a yellow image, flickering neon lights and endless walls. The original description was just one line: if you neglected reality in the wrong place and at the wrong time. You can fall into the Backrooms, and what makes that photo scary is something very specific: the absence of everything that should be there. The surprising thing is that none of the 20 Steam games understood that. So what did they do instead? Numbered levels, health bars, keys that open doors. But let's be fair, not all of them failed in the same way. If I had to make a top list of games that came closest to the original horror, the third would be Escape the Backrooms, which at least understands the scale of the space. The second would be The Backrooms 1998, which comes closer to the original idea, but none of them reached first place. That one is still empty. And that changes a lot when you ask yourself why, and this is where things get even more intense. Because all those elements aren't ways to improve the Backrooms, they're exactly what destroys the horror of the original concept. Because the horror of the Backrooms isn't active. It's not. There's something out there that's going to kill you if you don't run. The horror of the Backrooms is passive. It's, you're in the wrong place and there's nowhere you can go that would be the right place. And that changes a lot when you understand that this difference, active horror versus passive horror, is exactly the reason why the games failed and the movie didn't. Video games have a design problem with certain types of horror. And it's not a problem of budget or developer talent, it's structural. Video games exist for you to accomplish a goal, and the Backrooms, as a horror concept, work exactly in the opposite direction. The horror of the Backrooms is the absence of that goal. There's nothing to do, that's it. And how do you put that into a video game without making it boring? It's almost impossible. Because the moment you give the player a goal, like escape the level, find the exit, or avoid the monsters, the Backrooms become just another horror game with a yellow hallway aesthetic. They're not the real Backrooms. What's surprising is that some games half understood this. The Backrooms 1998 tries to use found footage to capture that feeling, and it does it better than most. But even there's progression, there are places to explore, and there's a story arc, and the original horror of the Backrooms has no arc, no progression. There's only endless space, no level 1, nothing to do. And this is where Kane comes in with something no one else had. The right format for the right concept. Kane Parsons chose found footage, and that wasn't an aesthetic decision, it wasn't a budget decision, it was the only decision that preserved the original horror of the Backrooms. When you watch a found footage video, you're not the player, the only thing you can do is watch. And that helplessness and feeling of not being able to intervene is exactly the same horror you felt looking at the original 4chan photo. The surprising thing is that Kane understood it without having taken a single film class. He understood it because he had spent years studying what creates fear in visual media, and he recognized that found footage was the only bridge between the original photo and a narrative that could preserve its power. You can see that every decision he made was specifically to avoid breaking what makes that very concept work. We don't have a monster from the very first minute. Instead, it appears on the periphery, only after enough time has passed in the space for you to feel that something is wrong. And what's interesting is that Kane didn't learn that structure in any film school. He learned it by playing video games, and Kane wasn't the only one who understood this. And Mandela Catalog also chose found footage. Local 58 did too. All the greats of analog horror made exactly the same decision, to eliminate that sense of having a purpose as a player. They only give you the space and the feeling that something is very wrong. The difference is that Kane was the only one Hollywood called. Kane Parsons is a gamer. He grew up with Minecraft, Portal, Half-Life, Little Big Planet. His first creations weren't short films, they were worlds and spaces inside video games. Basically, he was designing levels before he even knew that this had a name, and when the Backrooms games came to Steam, many of their developers were also gamers. They knew the same references as Kane, the same video games, so how is it possible that Kane understood something they didn't? Honestly, I think the answer lies in what each person took from those games. The developers of Backrooms games took what makes a game work as a game. Kane took something else. Portal taught him how a space can feel wrong without needing a visible creature. Half-Life taught him that silence and atmosphere build more fear than direct scares. Minecraft taught him that you can create a sense of place with simple elements repeated in unexpected ways. Kane took the lessons of spatial design from these games and threw out the mechanics. He focused on the feeling and discarded the rest, and he cut the gameplay. That's how we realize that the movie does something that no Backrooms video game has achieved. It puts you in the space without giving you anything to do. And that's exactly what the Backrooms always promised, but that doesn't mean the Backrooms can't make a good video game either. It means that to do them right, you'd have to find a system where there's no purpose and it's still fun. A game where losing the purpose is the central mechanic. And to achieve this, you have to break the rules of both cinema and video games. Because if you notice, what Kane really did wasn't just make a good horror movie, but rather he found the formula to make any good horror movie. But then, what would a Backrooms game that actually works be like? Well, honestly, I think it would have to break a single rule of video games, not give you any objective, just the space and you, without knowing if there's a way out, and something like that exists. It's called an interactive experience, not a video game, and that says everything about why the Backrooms are so hard to make in this format. So did the Backrooms movie humiliate video games? Yes, but not for the reasons most people are saying. It wasn't a matter of budget or talent, nor that A24 is more powerful than an indie studio. It was a matter of format. Kane chose the only format, a format that preserves what makes Backrooms scary, a format where you, as the viewer, have no objective. You can't do anything and you can only watch, and that's exactly the horror that the Backrooms promised since that first photo on 4chan. And the most ironic thing of all is that Kane learned that lesson by playing video games. He understood what made the spatial design of Portal and Half-Life great. And then he used that understanding to do something that those same games, with all their greatness, couldn't do at all. And I know everyone was expecting to see the famous creepy signs or to find a Shrek poster and then reach the famous pool level. That would have been great, but we have to say that the movie really kept you on edge. And I don't know if that makes Kane the best horror director of his generation or the best level designer who never made a video game. Well, friends, tell me in the comments, do you think any video game will be able to do what this movie did with the Backrooms? And what level have you reached in video games? We'll be reading your answers.